It's Wednesday morning. You know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Alabama Slam podcast. And if you're like, wow, this intro sounds a lot different than what it usually does, it's because Corey is not here. So it is just me, Patrick, and Steven with you here today. Corey is probably in the Gulf of Mexico, probably inebriated. He's on a cruise, so he's enjoying himself. So you're rolling with the tag team of Patrick and Steven here. Steven, what's going on, man?
You know, unlike some WWE executives, I am here, and I have actually read 67 pages of horrific stuff.
Jesus, yes. We have to talk about that at the end of the podcast, because I want to make sure that we hit on that, and Triple H's just non-answer. That was probably about the worst thing you could possibly say, but we'll get to that. Obviously, we're coming hot off the heels of Royal Rumble. I guess to kick us off here, Steven, I want to ask you this, because we can talk about this for a little bit. In terms of like the big WWE pay-per-views, I feel like wrestling fans fall in like three categories. You're either a fan of like WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble, or SummerSlam's your favorite. I guess if you're an old school wrestling guy, back when Survivor Series actually was like the classic Survivor Series, you could have been that. But where does Royal Rumble rank for you in terms of like the WWE pay-per-views?
It's probably number two. I definitely dig the WrestleMania. That's like, you know, the must-have of any of them for me for WWE. But Royal Rumble is always fun. I love I'm a stupid sap when it comes to when they do the Rumble by the numbers. I'm always like, yeah, give me them numbers. Tell me how many pounds of meat was inside that ring at one point. I love that stupid stuff. So yeah, I'd say it's probably number two. What about you?
See, I think it's my number one, because I think it is a spectacle. Like, yes, WrestleMania, you know, it's the grandest stage of them all, but the matches are normally, you know, they're always singles matches or they're tag team matches. You know, it's a type of match you see everywhere else. They don't do the 30-man, 30-woman Royal Rumble really outside of this one pay-per-view. Like, this is the only time where you can see a dozen people in the ring at one time, and usually they have pretty interesting spots and pretty cool ways that they go about telling some stories inside this match. So I think this is my number one. WrestleMania obviously number two, but Royal Rumble, I just kind of like the Royal Rumble match itself.
It's fun. It's 30 men and now 30 women. I mean, how can you argue with that? Just, I mean, obviously, so, you know, I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy me some Money in the Bank, mind you. This one hasn't panned out the way I wanted it to. But that and King of the Ring, they're probably my top four.
Yeah, I think people thought when they introduced Money in the Bank all those years ago, I think people thought that might be the next Royal Rumble type thing. And it was at the beginning. The Money in the Bank match, when it first kicked off, felt like a big deal, and it had a bunch of big stars in it. And I think here recently they've kind of, obviously Damian Priest has the briefcase now, so and we've talked ad nauseum about how much little impact he has made on the show. So the Money in the Bank match, I felt like has waned a little bit, but I think that was their attempt to make the next Royal Rumble match. Obviously, Elimination Chamber too.
I went into this one different this year, and I'm kind of glad I did. Normally you can find some of those surprises all over the place, and I went with my no spoiler mentality this time. So I had no clue who was going to be where or what, just, you know, guesses and hopes. It made it more fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's talk about the Royal Rumble then. Obviously, it kicks off with the 30 women battle royal. I don't know where you fell on this, but I think for the second year in a row, the women's battle royal was much better than the men's.
Yes and no. I'm going to say half of the women's Royal Rumble was better than the men's Royal Rumble, and then half of the men's was better than the other half of the women's, because there was some fun entrants. I mean, when Jordynne Grace came out, took me by surprise, and I'm happy to see her, because she's just a beast, and I hope, you know, that gets her some exposure. And I'm really glad to see her and whatever deal they worked out. But up until like probably about halfway or so, when Jade and them started coming out, that's when I think it started really picking up. Up until then, I'll be honest, I was kind of watching my clock a little bit, going, all right, how long is this going to be? You got an hour of entries kind of thing. But I think that back half of it really, really, really took off more than the first half.
So here's why I like the women's. Last year, I thought the women's was the best too, obviously because Rhea Ripley started at number 1. It feels like with the women's battle royals these last 2 years, there's been more surprises. One, in terms of just like the people who debut and whatnot. I think also the spots about how people are eliminated have been way more creative. With the men this year, it felt like it was just a lot of like one-on-one people tossing people out. But like the end of this match in the women's rumble, there were 3 people left. And, you know, you get the Liv Morgan spot, and then Bayley comes in at the last second. Like, I just think it's been way more creative. I think the women also kind of have a chip on their shoulder because I think they kicked off the pay-per-view last year too, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, they never get to go on last the way that, like, you know, Cody Rhodes and the men and all them get to do. And so it seems like, I don't want to say they work a little bit harder, but, like, they have a chip on their shoulder. And I feel like this year we had, you know, you mentioned Jordynne Grace, like she has WWE written all over her. I don't know when her TNA contract is up, but like the best thing you can say about somebody when they come out of when they start walking down the ramp is like, does this person fit in like a big arena and in the WWE lights? And 100%, she looks like she belongs right up there with like Bianca Belair and all those stars in that company. Obviously Jade Cargill, we've been waiting for her to debut. This was the perfect time.
And she didn't win, but she definitely made a moment, didn't she?
She looked the part, man. Like, and people were into her. And then, you know, you have the other stars. Becky Lynch had a great show, and Liv Morgan in a comeback. It's been a while since we've seen her. I thought she was great. And then obviously we get the moment at the end where I think maybe neither one of us picked Bayley, right? I think I picked Becky Lynch.
I think I was with Becky Lynch as well.
So, you know, you get the surprise of Bayley winning. You know, now I guess we are on the road to Bayley Mania. I would be shocked if she doesn't pick Io Sky to go after that title.
I'm very excited to see how that's going to play out because we can talk about that a little bit on Raw where she was coming out there to do her thing, and then we get the Nia Jax saying, you know, Rhea's mine.
Yeah, so I still think they're going to do Becky Lynch and Rhea. I think that is what, you know, Rhea got put on Monday Night Raw, I think, for that reason. I think Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill make a just natural WrestleMania match.
I like how they built that too, because they were, you know, you get Nia Jax that comes out into the ring, and you got Cole hyping how it took 11 women to get this woman out last time, and she had that moment where everybody swarms her and they're trying to toss her, and she just, you know, hulks them off, and everybody flies away, and then you get Jade Cargill come out there, and she just brute force right up on the shoulders, whoop, and I mean, if you're not going to win, that's the moment you want. You want that standout moment, and I think she got that perfectly.
And you don't have to know anything about where Jade Cargill came from. You don't have to. You didn't have to watch a single lick of AEW, like, to know that she's a star. And obviously, like you mentioned in that spot, WWE also sees her as a star. And so in one match where she doesn't win, she comes away. And if you're just a casual fan, you're like, I have to see more of that person. Like, who is that? She looks like a complete superstar. I like the Women's Rumble match. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and you get a Naomi comeback as well there. And that, I mean, sure, it's great to have her back, but in that moment, that's even secondary to all the other stuff that came out of that.
Yeah. And it'll be curious to see where she fits with the women's roster now, because obviously when she left, she was tag team champions with Sasha Banks. I do not see a Sasha Banks return coming anytime soon. I think she is AEW bound.
I think I saw a quote somewhere of somebody asked somebody at WWE if she was going to be there, and they're like, we can't talk to her, that'd be contract tampering. So I'm assuming she's just waiting to debut maybe tomorrow or today.
Yeah. As you're listening to this, it could be tonight if you're listening Wednesday morning where she comes back, and then obviously we'll talk about that next week. Bayley is an interesting case because correct me if I'm wrong. She's never won the Royal Rumble, right? So she's one of the only. Has Sasha Banks won it?
I don't know. They've only been doing that for a little bit.
Right.
Let's see if I can pull that up.
Charlotte and Becky, I think, have won. So that would make Bayley the only remaining 4-horsewoman who has never won the title before. And the face turn from Becky is it's going to happen soon if it doesn't happen this Friday. I did see a funny meme on the Squared Circle Reddit where somebody took the images of Batista. If you remember when Batista, when he was part of Evolution, he won the Rumble, and Triple H handed him the SmackDown contract, and he gives the thumbs up and then the thumbs down. And then somebody superimposed like Dakota Kai and Io Sky and Bayley's faces on that, which was pretty funny. Obviously I think Damage Control turns on her first.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that's going to be. It's got to be coming this week, right? I mean, give it enough time to build up. Let's see here.
Asuka and Kairi Sane, they're the women's tag team champions now. So now they're the heel faction that's going to have some gold.
Sasha Banks did not win one.
Okay, so that has Charlotte and Becky have won though, right?
Yes, Asuka, Becky, Charlotte, Bianca, Rousey, Ripley, and now Bayley. Yeah.
So Bayley, the last horsewoman that's still in the company, gets her win, and the crowd they've been waiting to cheer for Bayley for a while now. Anyway, even as she's been a heel.
They missed the inflatable flailing arm tube men and the hugs.
Yeah, so that'll make a comeback. Obviously it's not going. I don't think it main events either night of WrestleMania, because I think it's going to go to Seth and Roman.
More than likely, especially now.
They'll do the kind of marketing bullshit where they're like, it's the six main events or whatever.
What's the old saying? If you're not on the main, you want to be the front. So maybe they'll open.
Yeah, and also the main event is whatever goes on last. You can't have co-main events. The main event is whatever goes on last. That is the definition of main event. It bugs the hell out of me when they do that.
Hey, they are going to book this for four co-main events.
Yeah. So then I guess what came up next in the Rumble, was it Logan Paul and Kevin Owens?
Yeah, that was
yeah.
No. It was the four-way.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So obviously Roman retains because shocker, nobody saw that coming.
This I love the match itself, but and I know you've said this a billion times, and I'm right there with you now. I am so burnt out on the Bloodline Solo interference, and you knew it was coming the moment they said it was a DQ, and I don't think you needed it on this match. When you have that many people in the ring, there's enough interference that you can get from the participants without adding that extra flavor. There is no reason why AJ or LA Knight couldn't have yanked the ref out instead of it being Solo.
Yeah, and I think my biggest complaint anyway, up until recently, has been that like WWE treats Roman Reigns with such reverence, but he's essentially a cheater. It's not like he's Bruno Sammartino and he's just, beating the hell out of these guys to retain the title. He's literally cheating every single time. And obviously, with Nick Aldis coming as the general manager, he's mentioned that. We'll get to Seth Rollins' promo on Monday Night Raw from this past week. He blatantly mentions that about how Roman is a cheater. So, again, leading into WrestleMania, there was an opportunity here to remind the fans how dominant and how good Roman Reigns actually is. And like you said, there could have been multiple ways he could have come about winning this match without having Solo Sikoa interfere for the umpteenth time. I mean, it's literally copy and paste. Like if you're writing the script, the formats for these shows, you just open up whenever Roman Reigns was, you do the opening paragraphs. Randy Orton does this, AJ Styles does this. The last two paragraphs about Roman Reigns, you just copy and paste it from, whenever the last match he had. Solo interferes, and Paul Heyman, the referee's distracted. Spear, 1, 2, 3. Like, it's just same old. And it's not. I'm so sick and tired of it.
It's not doing Solo any favors anymore either, because while he's interfering, he then gets his ass whipped, and you're not boosting him up. All you're doing is making him just an afterthought at this stage, and it's sad. Because I know you think he's a bargain basement Umaga, but it's what we got right now. And, we got to live in that moment of what we have versus, what we could have had. So it just bumps me.
Yeah. That being said, though, I did enjoy the match.
Yeah.
I thought all of these guys worked well with each other.
100. The RKOs there that when he just started cleaning house. I mean, who doesn't like an RKO out of nowhere? The knock off who did he push? LA Knight into AJ. Is that what it was?
AJ, yeah.
And then I thought it was a solid finish. I just would have liked that false finish to have been slightly different.
WWE has a pretty good track record here recently of multi-man title matches being pretty damn good. Be there either triple threats or fatal four-ways. Like, they just have obviously the crux of any of these matches is that a couple of guys stay down on the outside for way too long for it to be, and then two guys just kind of wrestle in the ring for a little bit. But when
I didn't feel like this one had that.
It didn't have that much, no, and that's what I was getting at. Like, when it gets to the part where all the guys start interacting with each other, that's when it really starts to shine. So I don't know who's producing those matches backstage, but kudos to that person for just having a good gist of ways that guys can interact with each other in ways that make sense, where it's not just a bunch of people standing around, like you said. The being pushed into AJ Styles when he's going up to do the phenomenal forearm, like, it flows, and there's not a lot of standing around and waiting. It just sucks, obviously, that we get the same old ending with the interference that we've gotten now for, I don't even know, years. It feels like with Roman Reigns.
Let's see here if we can pull this up. Michael Hayes did this one.
Okay, yeah, that makes it. Michael Hayes has a history of multi-man matches with the Freebirds and all that stuff from back in the day, so it would make sense. He knows how to put a lot of guys in a ring and get them over. Let's move on now. Oh yeah,
I want to jump back because we skipped one of the biggest surprise entrances in the Women's Royal Rumble. Number 24. Number 24. Who came out? R-Truth.
Oh, yes, the comedic R-Truth spot. Yeah, we'll talk about R-Truth later when we talk about because I think R-Truth's going to get a pretty big moment at WrestleMania. I have a hunch. And we'll talk about that when we get to Monday Night Raw. Let's talk about Kevin Owens and Logan Paul, because for the first time it feels like in history a referee actually saw an illegal maneuver.
I put it in the notes here. I wish they had that referee working the Kansas City Bills game, because that guy had some eyes.
Okay, so here's the thing. Obviously, we know how wrestling works, right? The ref gets bumped, the ref doesn't see stuff, somebody distracts him. It's a part of it, right? It's how to get heat with the heel. But whenever you just like willy-nilly kind of break that, it's an interesting thought to have a referee break that and actually see something illegal.
Mm-hmm.
But the way they execute it, I don't know. I feel like if I was even calling it for a shoot, I don't know if I could have seen the brass knucks on KO. Like, he had his kind of back completely turned to him.
I don't recall any, because usually when the ref catches somebody, they're catching the bad guy doing it.
They're catching the bad guy, yeah.
This is, and I'm sure it's happened and I just don't remember, but this is the first time in a long time where I feel like they caught, the good guy doing the bad thing. And it's been a long time, and I like that. I hated the outcome. I really wanted. I'm a KO fan. I want that man to get every title and be, the WWE version of Eddie Kingston with triple crowns hanging off of him and everything. But I didn't hate the match. I thought it was a lot of fun. I'm glad he got his revenge per se. He said he's still going to come after more. But it was a solid enough match. It wasn't like what we saw out of Logan and like Ricochet in the Rumble last year, where they were like leaping across the entire floor and everything. But I think what sold a lot of these matches this year, and it made me happy, was the announce team put so much effort into pointing out details that make little moments where you've got Logan Paul's up there. He's got Kevin O on the top rope, and he's like, "You told me I can't superplex this motherfucker. I'm gonna do it right here, right now." And Corey Graves over there, "You ain't gonna do it, man." And Kevin Owens hits his normal spot. It's those little moments to shine those spotlights on those little details that I think make these things so much more enjoyable than they can be in a vacuum.
Yeah, and like I've said before, Logan is just a natural at this. I mean, I don't know if it's social media that, allowed him to kind of just be a natural at wrestling, but whatever it is that caused him to be that, he has excelled in this. And yeah, this was a good match. How do you feel about Grayson Waller and Austin Theory essentially just being reduced to Logan Paul stooges at this point? Because those are two guys that I think, I don't know, I might be higher on Austin Theory than a lot of people. I think
I like them both.
Yeah, and they're essentially now just goofballs to this part-timer.
Well, I mean, take that back. That man has now signed a full-time contract, he says. If this is gonna be his full-time job, he has renegotiated his contract, and he's supposed to be more active in the WWE now. So
I'll take it back. If we get Logan Paul week in and week out, and by his side he's flanked by Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, then I'll take that back, because that's a pretty good spot for both of those guys to be in. I don't know. I just look at Austin Theory, man. That dude's built like a damn brick shithouse. Like, I don't know if you just need to give him a mouthpiece to talk for him and let him just stand there, but like,
he's not horrible. He's not horrible on the mic. That's the thing. He's missing that he's still in that unbelievable stage. He hasn't found he hasn't found a way to let his voice come out in a way that draws us in. I think he has a lot of potential. I think Grayson Waller has found his voice, but he just hasn't gotten all the way to where he is shining in the ring like he should. But I'm hoping that, I'm not happy that they're flunkies, but sometimes you gotta be a flunky to find your way.
Maybe. I think here's my problem with Austin Theory's mic skills, is that Austin Theory talks and does the stick like Grayson Waller does, where he's the smart aleck, smart ass heel. But Grayson Waller doesn't look like a killer the way that Austin Theory looks like a killer. And to me, Austin Theory should be cutting promos the way Gunther cuts promos. Does that make sense?
It does, and he kind of did that at the beginning, but it didn't come across right for some reason.
Yeah, and he might not be believable in that with his mic skills yet, and that's why I think if he had a mouthpiece that could talk for him and he could kind of stand there, I don't know. It's just, I look at that dude and I'm like, man, if you were making a perfect WWE superstar in a vat, it would look like him. And yet, why is this dude doesn't even have a match? I mean, he's in the Royal Rumble, but like, he's coming out and helping Logan Paul. Like, it's kind of, I don't know. It doesn't surprise me, because he is super young, and like I've said before, it takes a long time to get really good at this. And the part that usually is the last thing to come is the believability. And Austin Theory has all the skills in the ring. I mean, he's uber athletic. The part he's lacking, though, just happens to be the most important part that makes you a superstar. So it's unfortunate for him, but he's got a lot of time.
It may be just not even that. It could be that he doesn't completely believe in himself yet, and he's still got that nervous energy kind of thing, maybe, and he's just trying to. But I mean, heck, if you want to believe Grayson Waller's hype, he's a 125 million click man. Yeah.
Maybe some of the confidence of Grayson Waller will rub off on Austin Theory. Maybe that's the reasoning behind this pairing. I guess up next was the men's Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Right?
You got we got the potential for a WrestleMania match tease right there at the beginning, with the yeets and no yeets.
I mean, that's going to be the match, right?
It has to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's their match. I don't know how it's going to feed into somehow. Cody's going to pick Roman. I know we'll talk about Monday Night Raw, what happened. Obviously, Jey Uso is an ally of Cody at this point. So it's going to be curious to see how they feed Jimmy and Jay into the larger bloodline Cody versus Roman story. But
it could just be the simple way of, saying, hey, Cody goes to him, goes to Jay and says, can you keep Jimmy off of me? Give him something to do. Whip his ass in a match for me.
Yeah. But that's a cool moment, though. And the fans were obviously eating it up right from the beginning.
Because we're going to, like you said, we'll talk about this toward the end, but Brock was going to be here, So
100%.
I have two guesses on where he would have been in this match. I want to hear where you think he would have been. Who do you think replaced him?
So I don't know if you saw the reports, but I think it maybe was Sean Ross Sapp or somebody, one of those insiders, that said obviously Braun Breaker replaced him. And they didn't even retool the match. They literally just took Brock's name out and put Braun in. Apparently Brock was going to get eliminated by Dominic Mysterio, just like Braun did. That was going to lead to a match between the two of them in Elimination Chamber. That would have been something.
It would have been interesting.
It would have been interesting, but you could tell when Braun Breaker came out and literally just started wrecking shop. You're like, okay, this was supposed to be Brock.
See, I wasn't sure if it was that or they retooled it and just had McAfee do his inner get eliminated, be done kind of thing. But it makes sense that if you've got him eliminating people, that Braun would slot it in just a little bit better.
And I think the McAfee thing was added too. I think just to kill a little bit more time, just because they didn't have Brock. So I think Brock's spot, had he had been there, probably would have been a little bit longer. But since it's Braun, they kept it the same, but just kind of shortened it a little bit. And then you get the couple of minutes where McAfee eats it up with comedic timing. Since you threw Braun out there, I don't know where you land on this. If you're asking me who was the most impressive out of that whole match, I don't know how you can come away not thinking it's Braun Breaker.
See, and I was waiting for you to have to say that, man, because I know you had said not too long ago that you had watched NXT and you didn't see a star down there.
Well, I think I said Carmelo Hayes was a star. I know Carmelo was in this match too. I still think Carmelo is a future WrestleMania main eventer. I think that dude has star power written all over him. Braun, just when I was watching it, he felt just like generic wrestler badass guy. And I don't know if it's just the fact that he replaced Brock Lesnar in this match, and so they gave him a lot to feed off of. He felt bigger in a bigger arena. I don't know if that makes any sense. NXT is so small where some of the smaller guys can feel bigger. Mm-hmm. And Braun, to me, in NXT kind of feels out of place, but when you put him in front of 48,000 people and he's hitting the ropes 1,000 miles an hour and just literally, those spears are not worked spears. He's just cutting folks in half. It comes across a lot different when it's on a big stage.
If you get a chance, I don't know if you're watching it or not, but they're doing the Dusty Classic, the tag team tournament down there in NXT, and Braun and Baron Corbin are a tag team down there for it.
Yeah.
And they just had a match with Axum and Nathan, something with an F that I can't think of his name right now. But seeing him, because in the Rumble you didn't have as many little guys when he was tossing them around at one point, but in that tag team match, because he's working with smaller guys, he gets to he's not a small dude, he's strong, but it showcases better when it's a tiny guy he's tossing around. And that tag team matches he's been having through the Dusty Classic have been intense, and I think you would find the same kind of level of enjoyment out of those spots.
So I did see some of the clips from that match you're talking about, and when I was watching it, I was like, Braun Breaker owes his opponents a steak dinner, because they are making this dude look like, people are like, oh, look at Braun toss this dude around. It's like, no, Axiom's doing 95% of that work with the damn backflip and all this. That's all him, but it does look cool. The one thing I don't like about Braun, and this is a nitpicky thing, and I get that he's paying homage to his Steiner legacy. I'm not digging the gear. I know that's a smart marky thing to say, the wrestling gear, but it's not. I don't think it fits him.
The tie-dye doesn't work for you. I get that.
Yeah, it was cool when the Steiner brothers were doing it because it was the 80s and everybody was doing tie-dye. But nobody's
but he's
doing
not.
that now.
Yeah, he's not Rob Van Dam, so he doesn't have the psychedelic thing.
Yeah.
You want it to be something a little more intense.
Yeah, intense. Intensity, because that's this dude's game. But yeah, he was the most impressive to me coming out of that match. I'm calling bullshit on WWE, though, saying he hit 23 miles an hour coming off the ropes, which is faster than Tyreek Hill. Listen, there's not many humans in the world that are faster than Tyreek Hill, okay? You don't have to sell me that this dude, is powerful. I can see it. You don't have to give me that line, too. Like, I've seen Tyreek Hill literally in person. Like, I covered a UNA game when he was playing at West Alabama, and I was like, I didn't know who Tyreek Hill was. And I think he scored on like a screen pass that he took 80-something yards to the house and then scored on a punt return. I was like, who the hell is this dude? And then come to find out it's Tyreek Hill, who had been kicked off from Division I and, Kansas City Chiefs, blah, blah. So I've literally seen that dude live in person. Braun Breaker doesn't come across the screen as fast as Tyreek Hill. But, I get it. They're trying to boost the dude up.
Don't let reality get in the way of the story.
Yeah, but it's just like, he hits 23 miles off the ropes. That's faster than Tyreek Hill. It's like, okay, come on. Just say he hits the ropes like nobody else. And anyway, maybe that's too far in the weeds. What else stood out to you for the men's Royal Rumble before we talk about the end?
I want to talk about the thing that annoyed the crap out of me the most, and that was Bronson Reed getting eliminated. Because that dude climbed himself over the rope to get tossed out. And it looked so damn awful. And I just wanted to be like, come on. If he isn't hitting the spot where he needs to hit it, make him do it again, because you look goofy, especially when it's close up on your bloated butt, climbing over the ropes.
And see, I think that's the reason why, to me, the women's Rumble was better, because I didn't feel like I saw as many people forcibly removing themselves to try to get into the right spot to get eliminated. Like, even when Bianca gets eliminated, right? How she get eliminated? It's because Tiffany Stratton is about to fall, and she literally just grabs onto her ponytail like anybody would do. And then, Bianca gets kicked, and they both go down and both get eliminated. But yeah, I noticed that too. There was a couple of times in the men's Rumble where it was like, okay, I'm gonna get myself over here and just throw myself over and awkward sort of stuff. I also saw in the notes section you had Andrade came back. How did you feel his reception was?
I think that's a Corey note, actually. I was waiting to hear you talk bad about it.
Oh, then I guess that was a Corey note. I don't know. I felt like, he got a pop. But here's the bigger thing, I think. And this goes to, I saw a couple of people mention this online, and I don't know if you noticed this.
I think we're about to talk about the same thing.
The entrance music for all these people, it's all the same.
It is.
There's no like Undertaker when the bells, you knew it was him. Stone Cold, the glass break. Everybody in modern day WWE, if you're Hispanic, you have some kind of like trumpet to start off the song, or it's like a hard rock song, or it's like EDM music, and it all feels the same. There was like, I think I maybe recognized 3 or 4 people's entrance music, and it happened to be CM Punk that has licensed music, Cody Rhodes that has licensed music, Sami Zayn because it's a holdover from the other one, and like The Miz because they've all been in WWE for 15 years. They hadn't changed the entrance song. And R-Truth's kept the same one, but literally all the new people just have like some generic guitar.
And I think that's a testament to the people they have writing those tunes right now, because I was kind of looking at the same thing that I think you were referring to, where they were talking about how the screens they used at this particular event were a little bit smaller, so you didn't get the big name pop. You couldn't see people on the Titantrons.
Yeah. And
the music is garbage. I miss CFO $. I mean, they had the ability to craft some some classic ass songs. Your opinion of the tag team might be different, but when Kaz and Enzo would come out and that music would hit, that was the start of when all these songs started getting over, kind of stuff. Where it was when they were in charge of the music, and now whoever they have now is just.
Well, Shinsuke, I think, was the biggest one. Like, Shinsuke's entire character was kind of built around that theme song.
Or Bobby Roode.
Or, that guy literally got over only because of the song. So, yeah, I think that was kind of what was, like, Andrade's music hit, and people were like, well, who is that? And then it took a minute, like, oh, it's Andrade. And then I don't think WWE, like, listen, we've talked about this a lot when it comes to kind of guys in AEW who are middle tier that want to kind of go back to WWE. It's like, what do you think you're going to be over there? You're not going to be the main event. And like, if you're Andrade, you go back to WWE and you get eliminated midway through the Men's World Rumble. Maybe you have a WrestleMania match. I mean, it's 2 nights, so it's probably a good chance you get one. It's probably against somebody like I don't even know at this point Santos or Rey Mysterio, somebody like that probably is what they kind of do, but like even that's kind of up in the air. So like, I know there's been some talk this week about maybe Buddy Matthews and Malachi Black, have expressed interest in going back to WWE, and it's like, okay, dude, what do you think you're going to be? You're not Roman Reigns, you're not LA Knight, you're not Randy Orton, you're not Cody Rhodes, you're not CM Punk, you're not Drew McIntyre. You're going to kind of just get slotted into the middle of the road, and sometimes the grass isn't always greener.
You say that, but if we looked back, I mean, Drew got big during the pandemic, but he had a huge fall off too, and he's just now kind of having his resurgence. So, I mean, Malachi, I think, he has a personality to him that I think if you give him a moment to try to, he will maximize those minutes. Buddy Matthews maximizes his minutes in the ring. I think he's not going to get as high as some of the other ones, because we saw where he was when he was at his high point in WWE, where he was sidestepping Ray to hook up with sidestepping Ray and Dom, I guess, at that stage, to hook up with the sister daughter. I mean, I think he has a lower ceiling than Malachi would. But it all depends on them having those maximized minutes.
And the thing, but the difference I think now is that WWE is so heavy at the top, and so if you're looking to a guy like LA Knight, for example, if you're looking at LA Knight's rise to prominence and it's like, I think I can do that. Well, the reason why LA Knight's rise to prominence is special is because it was unexpected. Like, if you gave Malachi Black the Bray Wyatt Mountain Dew Pitch Black match, do you think he recovers from that the way LA Knight does? Like, I think that's why LA Knight is special, is because WWE and Vince really didn't get behind this guy. Vince literally had this dude as a manager. And yet, in spite of all this stuff, fans clamored onto him for whatever reason. And now he, was just in a 4-way match against the Universal Champion, who's probably going to come close to breaking Hulk Hogan's record. Like, I don't think Andrade can do that. I don't think Malachi can do that. I don't think Buddy can do that. So, like, I don't know. Everybody doesn't get to be Cody Rhodes when they come back.
How would you feel if they put Andrade in the Gunther match for WrestleMania?
I mean, it would probably be a good match, but I don't think Andrade in WWE is the level of star that Gunther is. Like, Andrade is going to have to, not that he's starting from the bottom, but we've already seen with some of the references to AEW that have fallen flat in WWE, there's not a lot of crossover. I mean, there is, but it's not huge, or else AEW's numbers would be bigger. So there's a lot of people who are probably like, oh, that's the dude that's Andrade from NXT. That's pretty cool. He's back. And that's literally kind of just the base level. That's what his reaction was in the Royal Rumble. Was just kind of like, oh, he's back. That's kind of cool. So I mean, I don't know.
We were talking about number 24 in the women's match. So number 24 in the men's match came out again. He just had the wrong match. Right place, wrong match. And what does he do? He wants that hot tag to save Dominic.
Bro, I was laughing my ass off. That was fantastic. I also love that Damian Priest comes out and just punches him right in the face, throws him out. You know, obviously we can skip ahead a little bit when we're talking about R-Truth here. He got the hell beat out of him on Monday Night Raw, and out comes The Miz.
Yep. So
I think fans are going to get behind this, and I think this is going to be a sneaky WrestleMania match with Finn and Damian versus Awesome Truth for those tag titles. I think a lot of people are going to get behind.
I was really hoping DIY was going to take the titles on Monday. Now that they don't, and you had the R-Truth and Miz moment right after, that's now my bet on who's taking the titles off of them.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be mad at it.
No, like I said, I think that's going to be, outside of the two big main events, I think somebody's going to be like, you know what, I really want to see R-Truth and Miz beat the Judgment Day.
Because I mean, he's going to play the classics. They're going to do the classics on all the moves of that kind of stuff. So it's not going to be like a technical mastery match. But when you talk about maximizing minutes, R-Truth has a comic timing personality that he does so much with so little. And I mean, hell, what else do you want?
To me, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's gotten there primarily by being a comedy act, and being a comedy act that everybody kind of gets behind and doesn't really pull you out of the show. It's kind of incredible, this guy's talent, and obviously his longevity too. I mean, the dude's been around. I think he's like in his late 40s.
I thought he was closer to 50, but maybe
he could be 50s. I mean, he was in TNA when they were doing like pay-per-views that said that were NWA number 22. Like they were numbering the things. That's how long this dude's been wrestling. So, damn, he might be in his 50s. I know there's like a picture of him. It's either him and Tupac or him and Biggie that kind of floats around the internet every now and then.
52.
52. I mean, Jesus. Let's hope we all look that way when we're 52 years old. I mean, he's still in phenomenal shape. Do you have any big ones besides those that you were excited about when you saw them happen? No, other than what I'm about to talk about, which is how they were going to get their way out of CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes. I think everybody kind of knew that this is where it was going to go. Obviously, listen, last year we get the Royal Rumble match, and then at the end we basically just get another mini match between between Cody Rhodes and Gunther that I thought was really good. This year they try to go back to the well, this time with Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, and to me, I don't know how you felt, this just did not work for me.
I think we know why it didn't work at this stage.
Yeah, CM Punk looks like an old man.
Well, that's not what it is, though.
Oh, you don't think that's what it was?
Well, I think he tore that tricep before they got to that end. So I think he was working as a one-armed man at that stage. So I think he still has potential to do some stuff. I don't think it's. I think he did what he did to just kind of tough it through and hold up to what they were expecting him to do. But I mean, that's an injury, man.
I mean, you're right. Yeah, maybe I'm being too harsh. It is a bad injury, but and now obviously hindsight being 2020, knowing what it was. But when the Royal Rumble was happening, we did not know about the torn tricep.
No, he looked tired, exhausted. He looked blown
gassed.
Up. Yeah.
He looked gassed. The hair was a mess. He was looking crazy. Cody was trying to kind of pull him through it. But yeah, it just did not work. And I don't know if maybe somebody should have got word to the back, and maybe they did cut it short. Maybe they were planning on going a little bit longer and they cut it short, but I don't know. To me, it just was not working, and it came across as like, man, this dude, CM Punk he looks old, man.
And I talked to you about this a little bit. One of my thoughts is of why AEW tends to have so many people injured is because of the frequency with which they wrestle. Because it's I don't completely understand the logic of this, but your body gets used to taking those bumps when you take them repetitively in a certain way. So when you spread them out, your body rejects them more. CM Punk has not wrestled in, 3-4 months?
Yeah, I mean, he had the Madison Square Garden match against Dominic Mysterio, but that was around Christmas time. Yeah.
Yeah, but before that, I mean, it was All In, and that was in August.
Yeah.
So he's 45 years old. He's not, he's not going to be able to take he's not going to be the CM Punk that we all longed for. He's got to be that more grizzled CM Punk. Once you get him to the stage where he can kind of get back into the habit of that ring shape, I think he'll do a little bit better. But I mean, we threw him into a big match, one small match away from being out of wrestling for almost 6 months.
And this is now 3 times where he's either had a championship or gotten close to a championship and gotten hurt. So, like, if you're WWE brass, I wonder if this kind of gives you reservation on maybe going all in on CM Punk in the future, no pun intended with the all in reference. Because, I think I texted you when it happened. John Moxley's prophecy when he was cutting that promo: weak mind, weak spirit, fragile ego, fragile body. And I mean, it's kind of crazy going back, knowing what all we've known of what happened with CM Punk and AEW, to go back and listen to some of the old promos that guys in AEW when they were having programs with CM Punk. And, when you're just going through, you're just like, oh, they're all just working. They're working, right? It's actually, no, they might have just been actually telling the truth and saying how they really felt. Be it Eddie Kingston, John Moxley, obviously Hangman. I really don't think he jived with that locker room at all. I know that there were some people like Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks, sung CM Punk's praises, but they might have been the only ones that actually liked the guy.
I mean, I kind of feel like we're getting the same thing from WWE, where they're letting people voice their minds. But I think the big difference between this injury and the previous injuries is the structure of support that's around him now that he would not have had in AEW, where when he's injured, he is sitting at home. He's with AJ. He's with Larry, and that's what he's got. I think here, because they have that performance center, he has the ability to do the kind of thing that I think he likes doing, which is talking wrestling with people, helping people grow. They did a quick video of him getting in shape that I saw right before the Royal Rumble, where he was down at the Performance Center. It was him, Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams, I want to say Braun, and Lexi King, Pillman. Yeah. And they were doing just the 5 and 5s and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, he looked worn out there too, but again, I think that's because it's been a long time. I mean, but you could see there was a spirit in the way he was talking and just relating his experiences and stuff. And I get that there was cameras on him, so yeah, they're paying attention because there's cameras watching them, kind of stuff. But I also get the impression that wasn't completely show either, that they were genuinely trying to pick his brain to get those moments because they knew what they had access to, which is a rare commodity. I mean, you have, mind you, it's 10 years out, but you had the biggest star right there in your hand to kind of figure stuff out. And I think having that ability to kind of jump into there while he's doing his recovery rehab is going to make it a better transition for him when he comes back.
So since we're on the CM Punk train, let's keep rolling with it before we go back and backtrack to Cody Rhodes. Obviously, CM Punk starts out Monday Night Raw, explains it's a torn tricep. Out comes Drew McIntyre.
Well, I mean, hold on. Before we get that Drew McIntyre coming out there, he cuts one of the most sincere, heartfelt, try to jerk tears from you promos that you get in the modern area. This guy, this is a real hero. This guy overcoming cancer. This guy running to save lives. He was pulling on them emotions.
But that's what he's great at. I mean, that's you wouldn't expect anything less from that guy. I mean, when it comes to having a mic in his hand, he's one of the best. Certainly the best right now, and if you had a best to ever do it list in terms of promos, I mean he is up there for sure. And really that's what his calling chord was. And then we get Drew McIntyre, and I lost my shit when he was talking about he struggled with religion and spirituality in the past, and he's wondered what he is, but he prayed for this injury to happen, and I was cracking up. I doubled over in laughter.
Oh, and it was because it was one of those moments, because I loved watching that promo, because when he came out there, that crowd's trying to eat Drew's lunch with the what chance, because he's building it. But the moment he said that line right there, I prayed for this, that crowd was like, holy shit, what did he just say? And that from that moment on, there was not a one darn what that was said. They were he had them in the palm of his hands, and God bless him. I loved it. Oh my God, did I love it.
I mean, listen, I love Drew McIntyre, the ass kicker, but I really love Drew McIntyre, the player hater, 100% all the way he is right now. I mean, this stuff he's doing now is fantastic. Because, I mean, it's like Sammy said in his promo Monday Night Raw, he's pointing the fingers at everybody but himself, but the way he's pointing those fingers and the lines that he's saying as he goes about it is tremendous. I mean, that is something that you would not say, like praying for an injury to happen. People don't, even bad guys have never really said that before.
But again, this is the second time I've gotten to say this. But there's one other person that has said something like this recently, and you know how much I loved it. And that was Santos Escobar talking about Ray going, I hope you get your damn legs amputated. I mean, I hope the surgery goes bad.
There's something even more heinous about pleading to a divine figure for somebody's demise. Like, that's an extra level. Saying it like, I hope something bad happens to you is one thing. Saying that, like, I've struggled with spirituality and religion in the past, but I prayed for this to happen. And then, obviously alluding to, now there is a God because I have to believe there's God because this happened and now it happened to you. Like that.
It takes it to a different level.
It's a different level of hate for sure.
But I love, obviously. But I do love the fact that this is evidently something that they are leaning more into with their villain monologues of just letting some pure malicious evil just out in them, and I love it.
Yeah. And so we've all thought that one of the WrestleMania main events was going to be Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. Obviously, that is not going to happen now. CM Punk's going to be out for a while with a torn tricep. You and I kind of kicked the tires on this through a text exchange, but just for the listeners to hear it, what do you think the plan is now for Seth Rollins? Because I think he's going to be fine with the knee injury. Like I do think you will see Seth Rollins defending that belt. I think night one of WrestleMania. Who do you think he goes up against at this point?
See, I'm kind of hoping they let him. I mean, I know he wants the payday, but I want him to be healthy, and I want him to not have to try to rush himself and potentially injure himself more by not taking the time he wants. They started on Monday to kind of rebuild the Judgment Day as something of a vicious group. You still got, and I know you hate it, but you still got Senor Money in the Bank. Why would we not have him come out there, bash the hell out of Seth in the back of the head with the briefcase, turn it in, pin him, call it a day, and have him move on with that belt, and then have somebody have a Drew versus Damian Priest match for your WrestleMania. It does no longer has to be your main event, and then you can put one of your women's titles as your main event there.
There is 0% chance that we don't see Seth Rollins at WrestleMania.
So it's got to be Gunther, right?
Gunther, yeah, I would think Gunther or Drew. I think is the point.
Those are the two.
Those are the two options.
Because I thought they might hold off on the Drew Sammy match, but they gave it to us right away, didn't they?
They gave it to us right away, yeah. And Drew picks up the win. And so they, since Triple H has been back in charge, they have done a good job rebuilding Drew McIntyre as a top tier star. I kind of threw out a wild suggestion to you though, and I was like, if you're WWE, okay, obviously Jordan Grace has already walked through the Forbidden Door. I know Triple H didn't want to call it that because he thought it was stupid, but she came through the Forbidden Door. If you were just trying to make the biggest money match possible for Seth Rollins, do you not at least pick up the phone and call Tony Khan and be like, what's Jon Moxley doing in April? Because to me, like, if you're asking, like, what's the biggest Seth Rollins match out there, just if you could pull out anybody, if it's
not Roman,
Ambrose. If it's not Roman,
yeah,
it's Jon Moxley. Now, there's probably a 0.01% chance that even crossed their mind.
I think my dreams have a better chance of surviving than yours there.
I think do too. I think, yeah, a Damian Priest WrestleMania main event is probably a better chance than Jon Moxley. But, like, listen, I don't know. Like, it's just a thought experiment. So if you're Tony Khan and Triple H calls you up, do you say yes to that?
No chance in hell.
Because I think I would. I think if I was Tony Khan and the phone rang and it was Triple H and he said, listen, crazy idea. We want to do Seth Rollins and Jon Moxley at WrestleMania. Obviously, our guy Seth's going to win, but we're going to have a 6-week program. We'll make some kind of custom T-shirt. We'll split T-shirt sales with you 50-50, blah, 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 blah. Let's assume all the financials get worked out. What incentive would Tony Khan have to say no? Because ratings are terrible. Jon Moxley has a history in WWE. I mean, he's one of the... I think the Shield's probably the biggest faction WWE's ever had, and he was a core member of that. He was in WWE for forever, former WWE champion. I don't know, man. If I was Tony and that phone rang, I think I would have to say yes.
I was a huge Dean Ambrose fan. When the Shield was still there, Dean was number 1, Seth was number 2. I didn't care if Roman stayed or went. You can see where the WWE differed in their opinion on my beliefs. But I remember those Dean Ambrose matches. And when he's not motivated, you're not going to get the matches that we're getting from Jon Moxley. You know what I'm saying?
I think a WrestleMania main event is motivation enough. I think Jon Moxley would be. I think he would agree to it if Tony would agree to it, and then obviously, like, if I was Tony, I would have stipulations like, hey, he has to be. You have to mention AEW. I would put some kind of belt on Jon Moxley, be it an international title, one of the titles, so that the AEW belt could be on WWE TV. Like I said, this is all a thought experiment. This shit's never going to happen. But
would you want him to be wearing a title and then eat the pin?
Yeah,
I guess if it was a mid card.
If it's a mid card title, that's what I was going to say. I would have. He's not touching my world championship, but like New Japan did this a lot. Where like, excuse me, their intercontinental title or the U.S. heavyweight title they have in New Japan, they would eat pins in other promotions to big guys because it's a secondary title. It's a mid card title. So I would have Moxley be in this dream scenario. Moxley beats Cassidy for the international title, and he walks over to WWE and does a program with one of the biggest stars in that company. But like I said, that's.
I think the internet would lose its shit, and I would love to see it, but
yeah, it will never happen. It'll probably be Gunther.
Yeah, I want to ask the question that we've been asking for AEW for a long time now. He signed, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you have Drew McIntyre come out there and talk that shit to a CM Punk to build a return match that's going to happen in September at best and not have his ass signed, right?
I would think so. I think that's the same reason, like you said, mention AEW. I don't think you have MJF come out there and talk shit about AEW if he's not actually signed to AEW. So it would shock me if Drew didn't end up re-signing. But like we talked about last year, the appeal of AEW's schedule, plus the fact that they have another big event in Wembley Stadium this year, and with the money that Tony would probably be willing to pay for Drew McIntyre, like, I don't know, you at least have to think about it. But I think WWE re-signed him, though. That's just my thinking.
So, yeah, I mean, that's, if they're not, they got to be real close, or they think they're going to get it done. And if they don't, then I'm going to talk the amount of crap that I talk about how AEW, when they let CM Punk walk away from the money match they could have had.
But listen, apparently they thought they were close with Jay White, and then they weren't. We saw where he landed. So, that'll be something to pay attention to. Let's backtrack now to the guy that actually won the Royal Rumble, Cody Rhodes. He goes back-to-back for the first time since Stone Cold. And if we had any doubt about who he was going to face, he immediately points to Roman Reigns, and the Royal Rumble pay-per-view goes off with Cody and Roman. I know they did the little thing with Cody and Seth Rollins, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I don't think that there's any chance that happens. I think they're just building up suspense because WrestleMania is still, 2 months away? We got to fill TV time at some point. Cody's going after Roman. So I guess what were your thoughts about Cody winning? Obviously, it probably wasn't that much of a surprise. And are you interested in seeing Cody versus Roman Part 2 this year?
I am, if it happens. Again, you've got that The Rock match is still lingering somewhere. I don't know if they're going to... I mean, do you see a world where Roman main events both nights of WrestleMania?
No. If you're going to get The Rock involved, here's the world that I see. You do a Cody versus Roman, and then at the end of the match, obviously, you get all the shenanigans that start happening. Solo comes out, Jimmy comes out, we'll probably have a Jay come out. We get all the things. Oh, shit, Roman's going to cheat to win again. And then I think The Rock's music hits. And The Rock comes out and levels the playing field for Cody Rhodes. Cody gets the pin on Roman, and then you set up Roman and Rock without the title for next year's WrestleMania. And they've done something similar with The Rock and John Cena, if you'll remember from back in the day. They basically had a year build up with WrestleMania.
And I guess that's more likely to happen now that he is businessman first, actor second, and one of his number one businesses is a multi-billionaire company.
Yeah, because what would you rather have? Would you rather have a 2-month build up of Rock and Roman or 12 months?
2.
Well, let me rephrase the question. If you're a businessman, right, and you're looking to get the most bang for your buck, do you want 2 months of The Rock or do you want 12 months of The Rock?
I want the money, but I don't know if he can. If, like I said, I love him, but the last 2 times he's come back, it's been a retread of the same thing over and over again. And if I get 12 months of that, I don't see the money that that could be. But I do. I also get that you're going to have Roman on very little TV between now and then. So I get why the Seth and the Cody thing makes a big deal, because you got to get the eyeballs on something.
Yeah, I think that's all that was them just trying to make some good television leading up to WrestleMania. I don't think there's any chance that we see Cody and Seth going for the title.
I appreciate what Seth said, but I couldn't look at him with a straight face when he was talking about his title. I mean, do you want the Hollywood title? Do you want the one that had all these icons behind it? Or did you want the one that was created for me and I'm the only one who's worn it?
Yeah. There was a lot of like, okay, man, maybe if you were better promo and a little bit more convincing, I could buy that. But like, come on, dude. It's Roman Reigns is he's in the conversation right now with title length reigns with like Hulk Hogan, who is probably regardless of how you feel about him, the biggest wrestling star ever, and probably the only reason why this shit is as big as it is now is because of Hulk Hogan. So, like, yeah, man, like they gave you a title because they wanted to keep this thing on Roman, and they felt like they needed something else. They created it just for you. Like, yeah, it ain't what it is. Honestly, a guy who has a better claim to the stuff that Seth was talking about was a guy like Gunther. I mean, that's basically Gunther's story right now.
I want to jump back to the Rumble real quick because Michael Cole said one thing that I laughed my ass off when he said it. When they were talking about how Roman wins his matches, how he never defends it, and then when he does, he cheats. You don't like it? Beat him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so... There's sort of that odd sort of dissonance there, because it's like the only reason Roman has had the title for this long is because we scripted it for him to have the title this long. And yet we're also going to script it that he's not a real champion. I don't know. It's a little bit of like kind of all over the place.
Do you think Seth can be a significant enough underdog for Gunther to come up against? Because what is making Gunther shine is the people that he's going up against are like Kofi's and the Gabriels and the others that are really good at fighting from underneath. Do you think that Seth can do that to the point to make it shine?
Yeah, I think those two actually probably pair up pretty nicely with each other. Because I think Seth's knee will be to a good enough of a point where I don't think it'll be a limiting factor in the match. Because, I mean, that's another wild card. I think Seth's going to wrestle, but does Seth wrestle at 100% or does he wrestle at 65%? And that's going to make a big difference. And honestly, if he wrestles at a 65%, a guy like Gunther probably still is the best matchup for him because it's punches and chops and kicks. And as much as that sucks, you can take chops all day. I mean, it's gonna hurt like a son of a bitch, but it's not going to actually do any kind of real like damage. You're not going to get injured from it, right? He's not going to blow out his knee taking
unless he chops his knee.
Unless he chops his knee, yeah. Which, you know, if there's one guy on this earth that I could see believably chopping somebody's knee and having it blow out, I guess it's a guy like Gunther. But yeah, I think we get Cody and Roman. I think that'll be a good build up, and I think that'll be.
And yes, I would like to see it. I'm a Cody fan. When he's talking about how, you know, you had dashing Cody and nobody liked him. You had a few people liked him. Stardust, you had nobody like him. I wanted to send that boy a message going, I've got a gosh darn Stardust and Stephen Amell shirt hanging in my closet right now because I liked you as Stardust. Yeah, I know it sucked in your life, but it entertained the crap out of me, sir, because you carried it. But I want him to have that moment. And as they were saying in the press conference, I feel like he is what the WWE and wrestling needs right now for all the right reasons.
Yeah. And so as we're wrapping up here, because we're going to extend an episode here. So is there anything else we want to talk about WWE wise before we talk about the absolute shitstorm that was the Triple H answer in the press conference?
No, let's just dive into that.
Listen, man, you know you're going to be asked this question about Vince McMahon, okay? You've had days now. If that's as good as what Triple H can do to an answer to that question, he does not need to be the face of this company anymore. Point blank. I don't know how you feel about that. It was one, I think it was tone deaf. It was completely dismissive. And the fact that he said, I haven't even read the thing. Cool. You're the only guy associated with wrestling in the entire world that hasn't read it, if that's the case. Also, the reason you're being asked about it is because, one, you're doing a press conference and there's journalists there. Two, you are essentially the face of the company at this point when it comes to the business decisions. I know Nick Khan's the CEO, but Nick Khan doesn't do these things. You do. And three, you're the dude's son-in-law. So you have to answer this question. And here's what bugged me the most. You had a lot of people online that I saw were like, well, what do you want him to say? He can't say anything. It's like, that doesn't matter. It's how he said it. If you want to look at a perfect response to that question, go look at Cody Rhodes' answer.
And see, I agree with some of what they're saying, but I think Cody's able to answer that question from a business perspective because he has, the EVP experience, but he has no dog in the fight, and he's not a voice of a company right now. While he's the face potentially of a company, that's the answer that you would want from him on that. And the answers were miles apart. But I also understand that as the creative content officer of the WWE, you can't comment on an active investigation, but you can damn sure make sure that you say that in a way that isn't, how are we going to prevent this from happening? We'll do everything we can. Because, I want you to do everything you can, but you need to make me believe that you're actually going to do it. And that answer wasn't it.
Not at all. And here's what they need to be careful of. And I'm not saying that Triple H is in jeopardy of losing his job or whatever. But as WWE moves more and more into the mainstream, right? TKO, Netflix. This is not the carny world of wrestling anymore. You are now big business. And the one thing that you can't mess with when it comes to the big business people is their money. And anything that comes between them and their money, they are going to extradite from the situation. And TKO stocks fell amidst all this lawsuit. And do you think that Triple H's comments boded any kind of confidence for stockbrokers whatsoever?
No, but here's, you say that, and going into Royal Rumble, Slim Jim had said they were suspending their partnership with him. Vince resigns. And evidently that was enough for that partnership to get going, because they were right there in the heart of the Rumble, advertising the Slim Jims left and right.
Right, but if you're the CEO of TKO and you're watching this press conference and Triple H says what he says, one, you're going to be like, did anybody prep this dude? Or two, like, what? Because wrestling is not, I guess here's what I'm trying to get to. I don't think that you could easily remove Triple H from the WWE, but we said the same thing about Vince McMahon. And now WWE is making more money than it's ever made. And so as wrestling and as as WWE in particular, like I said, gets more to the mainstream, where it's become less of like the old school wrestling of like the 70s and 80s and 90s, and now it's basically like live action Marvel movies. You could find people that can write and be the chief content creative officer of WWE and remove Paul Levesque, and you could have Nick Khan do the press conference CEOs because he's a Hollywood guy. Like I said, I don't think Triple H is in jeopardy of losing his job anytime soon, but those types of things and those types of answers are going to have people looking at him a certain way, because he does not come from the business world. He comes from the wrestling world. And the only reason why the business people are in the bed of wrestling is because it makes money. They don't have any respect for wrestling. They just see it as a cash cow.
You say that you don't think he's I'm not sure he's not at risk at this stage.
And he might be.
Because that is money. It has not made it out of the news cycle yet, and it's hitting more mainstream news points at this way. NWA just potentially lost a deal with a major network because they had a manager snorting coke with hookers. A fictional manager snorting fictional coke with fictional hookers, and they lost a deal. You cannot be looking, if I'm sitting at Netflix and I'm seeing this news pop off, and I know that that's what I am about to build my live sports empire based around, I'm considering, whether or not I've made a mistake and want to try to figure out a way out of this deal. And if we get to, and then you have him sit in that press conference and say what he says, and the way he says it, he's making himself expendable. And that is the last thing you want to do when you know that there are going to be heads that are rolling, is you don't want to go out of your way to make you the most visible secondary scapegoat to go after.
And here's another thing to keep an eye out for. If they do not settle this case, it is going to go into discovery, which means you are going to have attorneys who are going to be poking around, who are going to be asking questions. I'm not saying that Triple H has any kind of, dirty past or dirty secrets, but this thing with Vince McMahon doesn't seem to be an isolated incident. It seems to be like a culture, a toxic work environment. And so if you are sitting on the board of TKO, if you're the CEO, it would not shock me if something comes out. And, you have to make, tough decisions. And, Triple H is then removed from WWE, because we know, listen, you can go on the YouTube right now and look up shoot interviews with old wrestlers and have them talk about sort of the stuff that was going on in the locker room back in the day. Triple H is an environment, was in that environment. He is a product of that. So,
if you want to get really down to the heart of it, you can go back and see those same shoot interviews talking about a product that he was directly controlling. When you look at NXT back in the day, when you had Bill DeMott doing whatever the hell Bill DeMott was doing in NXT.
Yep. And here's the thing, Triple H's answer, here's another thing that it did. It pissed off a lot of journalists. And when you start having the New York Times and the Washington Post and those types of people sniff around, that's where I think there's a lot of big trouble. This story's not going away, I guess.
No, and as you said, if they don't settle in that discovery, you've got 4 corporate officers, well, technically 3 corporate officers that are anonymous right now, that ain't going to be anonymous for long.
No. And you could easily, Nick Khan is not, like I said, he's not a wrestling guy. He's a Hollywood guy, entertainment guy. He could be like, he probably does know nothing about any of this and just throw his hands up. And he's a very easy guy to slot in. He's great in interviews. And yeah, he might not know the wrestling world, but much like a Dave Filoni with the Star Wars universe, there's somebody out there that knows enough about wrestling that you can slide into a role to have them write formats.
Well, hell, he told you right there in that press conference you have a newly elected board member who he can talk shorthand with in order to get what he needs to get. And while he may not have he may not have gone that creative direction with wrestling that Triple H did, but are you telling me that you don't think The Rock could be slotted in there to kind of do what he's doing, knowing what he knows?
Well, and who's The Rock's guy that wrote? Brian Gewirtz was The Rock's writer, was the head writer of WWE. You could easily slot him right back in, and he could become the head of WWE. And Nick Khan could just handle the press conferences. If you still want to do that and have Nick lead the press conferences and have Brian be the chief creative guy. But this story with Vince, it broke right after we recorded last week, and
literally,
like you said, horrific details, and this is not going away anytime soon. This will be here for a while, and so we will see what happens with WWE going forward.
You have fucked up when your press conference is now being looked at as a worse press conference than the guy that stood there with sunglasses and a funny hat saying almost the exact same thing you said, and that one is considered a success and yours is not.
Yeah, we talked about that when that one happened too. Yeah, that was because at least Tony Khan said the right things. He just looked like a damn complete dumbass with the sunglasses and the hat on. Triple H looked the part, but then said all the wrong things. So, anyway, so we've gone extended here. Is there anything from AEW you even want to talk about? I feel like we covered Dynamite last week. I want
to talk one thing because we had the final blow off match on Collision. Which I
didn't even watch, by the way. In full disclosure, I was watching Rumble.
Decent match. Match concept is completely stupid. and it bugs me that this they had an escape the cage match, and it was all about getting out of it. And I thought when the cage came down, I know they had a door, but I didn't think they were going to be opening the door for people. But all you had to do was walk over and they would open the door. Yet all these dumbasses are trying to climb the cage to get out instead of just taking the thing, and it just makes this look so gosh darn stupid that it becomes such a joke when they are busting their asses and putting their lives on a line to have them be and to have the system fail them so much.
And WWE does the same thing where the door opens, and I hate it. The door should not be opening in cage matches. That's the entire point of a cage match, is that you cannot get out unless you physically climb over the top, which I know this one in Collision, like, it was off. I don't know why I got turned into just an escape the cage match.
Supposedly that's what it was supposed to be the entire time. They just weren't and I like the idea of it where you've got them strategy wise, you let two of the other guys escape, then you murder the guy that's still left in there, and then your three guys walk out the door. But instead we get this convoluted mess of stuff, and it's like, come on, stop tripping over your own feet, stop sticking the stick in the spoke of your own tires as you're driving around, but yeah, otherwise it was an okay show. You had Najita, what is it? Danielson.
Nagata.
Yeah, Nagata, thank you.
Yeah.
It was decent enough. They had some great. They managed to get you to care about each of them because they took it slow. It's what I want out of AEW, is make it look solid, but make it look real, and they did a great job on that. I just wish it had been about people that I was more familiar with. Yeah. And that's what AEW is a master of, is let me throw people that you haven't seen. Like, we're going to get 4 CMLL guys at the next one. Mystico, and I don't even remember the names of all of them. It's like, why do you keep inviting all these other people from other wrestling promotions to your show when you have 200 people in the back that need to get over?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a tough spot because WWE is going to rule the day here for the next 3 months as we lead up to WrestleMania. So they just kind of have to weather the storm. We'll see what happens. Obviously, we'll talk about, I think the big thing from this upcoming Dynamite will be R-Truth and Hangman. I mean, that seems to be the story in AEW. So.
Swerve.
All right, Swerve. Yeah, who did I say?
R-Truth.
Damn. Would it be a lot better if R-Truth was in AEW? That would be
funny as hell.
At least give him something else.
Swerve's pick was stupid. I'm saying that right out.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on next week's thing. That was
the only other thing I got to say is Mariah May ain't getting over. When they're chanting for Lady Frost over you done fucked up.
Listen, I think Mariah May is going to be a big star, though. I saw that in the notes. I think she has all the potential in the world. I just think it's a part of, like, nobody in AEW. No new people in AEW are getting over right now. They are in a rut. That's, the easiest, I guess the best way you can say that. The worst way you can say it is that this is some of the worst programming that they've had since they've been a company. It's really, really bad right now, to me. Top through the bottom. I think you're still muted.
She has regular TV time. That's the problem. So
yeah, that
is a face that you are seeing on a regular basis, and they're cheering for Lady Frost, and not because they want her, the babyface heel dynamics, but because Mariah May looked like garbage in that match compared to Lady Frost.
I'm not selling my Mariah May stock just yet. So if I can buy yours, if you're offloading all yours, I'll take yours. From you, I think she's got star written all over her. We'll see. Hopefully AEW can help her get there. So this was a supersized only WWE episode. I don't know if we've done
really kind of was, yeah,
in a while. But obviously we're leading up to the biggest WrestleMania, WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, and so yeah, I think unless you got anything else, I think that's going to do it for this week.
Let's take this home.
We'll take it home. Next week, we should have the gang. Should be all back. Corey should be back from the Gulf of Mexico. Maybe
Hungover.
still maybe hungover, maybe even still inebriated. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I don't remember all the stuff he usually plugs here at the end. We're on the Alabama Take. There's all kinds of other podcasts out there. Star Wars podcast, sports podcast. So you can check all that out at thealabamatake.com. And yeah, we appreciate you guys listening to us every single week. And if that'll do it, then we will see you guys next week.